What's going on with the shipping costs and transit time situation now that we're coming up on March 2022? Today's guest gives us the rundown. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I am your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that's a completely BS-free, unscripted, and unrehearsed organic conversation about serious strategies for serious sellers of any level in the Amazon or Walmart world. We're going to talk about something that's been on the mind of a lot of serious sellers out there, and that's specifically a lot of things having to do with shipping. You know, we've been having our own resident expert that we call in about the sourcing and some shipping things at Keon. We've been having special episodes, if you guys have heard, on our Helium 10 Buzz episode of the week, once a month, where we get an episode where we have an update on what's going on as far as, especially in China, on the sourcing delays that some might have. And, you know, there's been updates on power outages and things like that. So make sure to keep tuning in on that. And you can see his channel at Sourcing with Keon and on YouTube. But I want to flip the script a little bit and just talk mainly about, like, you know, warehousing and shipping and things, because for the last, it's been like 2 years, we've had a lot of abnormalities, you know, whether it's really delayed shipping times or nobody has space in warehouses, or Amazon changes rules on incoming shipments and this and that. So I wanted to try and ask some of these questions that I've been seeing in the Facebook groups and things, and give you guys an update, you know, now that we're here coming up on the end of February 2022, you know, coming out of, you know, Chinese New Year. What can we expect? So I've invited here for the first time on the show, Burak. How's it going?
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Bradley.
Now, where are you based out of?
Miami, actually, Florida. Not a bad place.
Miami, Florida. Okay. Now, is that where you were born and raised, or what was your path here to?
I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey. I left Turkey maybe like 12 years ago. I studied 1 year in France. I did an MBA in Paris, and I moved to China for 6 months. I was basically going to be a caddy master in a golf resort. It's a strange way to start a career, but then after 3 months, I decided that's not something for me. My background is international logistics and international business, my bachelor degree. So I started working for a Chinese-American company. Then I grew, started my own business. Kian is actually my good friend. We know each other for a while. Kind of have a similar background. Like I started as a sourcing agent, middleman, one-man show, whatever you call, and ended up staying there 8 years instead of 6 months. And then 3 years ago, I moved to Miami, but we still have offices in China, Hong Kong, and other part of the world.
Okay, cool. So did you, I'm assuming you learned Chinese pretty well then, living over there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of losing a little bit, but now in Miami, I feel like I need to improve my Spanish. So basically, I'm kind of lost between the languages. But yeah, it was impossible to survive in China, you know, without Chinese. And back then, business was very fast. You know, I kind of luckily witnessed the fastest growing GDP of China. Like, you know, they were growing 10 to 12% every year. Year 2013, 14, 15, the best years of China, I was there. So I kind of witnessed how the companies grew, how the shipment quantities increased, and how everything was like outstanding.
The first thing that's on everybody's mind is, you know, everybody has seen the news, even if they're not in e-commerce, where they see pictures of like the LA port or things about how, you know, there's just all these container ships just sitting out there. And, you know, we've talked with Kian and others about some of the reasons why, you know, lack of containers, you know, from China, and then, you know, lack of availability to get them checked in here. But, you know, end of February 2022, what's the current status? Like, did any of that like ease up over, you know, since nothing was shipping out of China, you know, for the last few weeks due to the Chinese New Year, or is it still just as bad as it's been over the last few months?
I think, you know, I think everybody would be expecting us to start talking about, you know, shipping from China to US, but I think I'd like to start like a little bit reverse engineering in here. Mm-hmm. In the United States, we have almost 40 million square feet shortage warehouse-wise. What I mean with that is we have roughly today 105 to 110 container ships waiting outside of Los Angeles. So unfortunately, there's no technology or there is no solution for that yet. Even if the port or, you know, the government comes up with new regulations, new updates, you know, if you can't pick up your container on time, they give you fine, or they charge shipping lines, and that shipping line is charging actually end customers as a congestion fee, like out of nowhere. So everybody's like really surprised at when this thing is gonna over. But unfortunately, there's not enough space in the West Coast to put all those merchandise. So basically, when we are saying there are 110 container ships are waiting outside, it is almost equal of 60 million square feet merchandise. So where are we going to put all these things? Meanwhile, we already have 40 million almost square feet shortage in entire United States. So that is number one, I think, question mark. Yes, we still have shortage in California, in especially in Los Angeles. We still have shortage problem with the drivers, with the trucks, and more importantly, the chassis. A lot of people wouldn't know what it is. It's a little maybe technical, but you have a container in the terminal available to pick up. We send a truck to pick up, but there's no chassis. There's no equipment to actually put that container on behind the truck. So basically, the truck goes into the terminal, and they can't basically pick up the container and just come back. And this is like a snowball effect. We've been trying to avoid Los Angeles port last 6 months because some of our customers stuck product almost 3 to 4 months. So imagine you're investing $50,000 to $60,000 into a full container of merchandise, but you can't sell them 3 to 4 months. So there are a lot of sellers are having a very big cash flow pressure, I believe.
You can control where your port of entry is if you're as long as you're ordering a full container.
Yes. I mean, it's about, I lived in China 8 years. I have a lot of good friends, companies, but the companies from especially China, FBA, Amazon FBA sellers, as well as e-commerce sellers, Shopify, Walmart. And one of the biggest, I think, challenges that sellers are facing are they don't know where's their shipment. They don't know what is the actual departure date. They don't know what is actual arrival date, how many days, if it's a direct shipping line, and if there's a connection through a different port. One of the biggest, I would say, wrong pronunciation is a term that people call, that I'm sure you heard, Bradley, like CDDP, air DDP. It is due to delivery paid, means that the freight forwarder takes care of everything. But most of the companies in China, they use this fast CDDP and slow fast DDP, but there's no such thing existed. It's either direct shipping line or it's indirect shipping line. And most of the shipping lines are connecting through Korea, Busan port, which has a crazy backlog, or they're connecting through Los Angeles. If you want to ship to, I don't know, Seattle, San Diego, Oakland, almost 80% of the shipping lines are connecting either in Korea, if we ship it out from China, or in Los Angeles. So what is the reason of using those shipping lines? Even if you have a small shipment, full container, I think one of the things sellers need to be really careful about to, I think, improve their communication with their freight forwarders. They need to understand what is the transit time, which shipping line are they using, what is the route. You know, when the Suez Channel was blocked with one of the evergreen cargo ship, so many companies, they start freaking out and they try to reroute the shipments. They start sending to different ports, different part of the world. And I guess that's where people start getting more aware of where their shipments are going and where the shipments should go through and where it shouldn't go. I think this is the number one thing sellers should be focusing on, because, we have a lot of clients, they're using Helium 10. They have amazing tools like, you check your keyword ranking, you check your competition, PPC, but if you don't know when your shipment departs, when it's going to arrive, how are you going to stay on top of your inventory management? How can you manage your PPC budget? How can you manage your coupons if you don't know where's your shipment and when it's going to arrive? So I really think that sellers should start thinking all this process, just one entire process, and they need to start managing everything in one hand.
So what is the current times? Like, let's say LA port versus Oakland port. I ship something, the March 1st, 2022. When is it going to actually probably, clear customs and get through? Because I know sometimes, sure, it'll get to the quote unquote port of Long Beach, but it's sitting on a container ship, like you said, for 1 or 2 months. So what is the current situation right now, something leaves Shenzhen port on March 1st. When can I expect to get my hands on it? Not necessarily arrive to an Amazon warehouse or 3P warehouse, but when can a local truck in California, either Oakland or Long Beach, actually pick it up? How long are we talking?
Actually, there will be three options. Number one, shipping from Shenzhen to Los Angeles, indirect shipping line, which means connecting through Korea. There can be between the actual sailing time, the transit time, the shipping line is providing us between 35 to 50 days. So this is just the original time of the ship departs from Shenzhen, stops in Korea, exchange the containers and go to Los Angeles. Could be, depending on the shipping line, could be, you can imagine that as an airline. When you fly from one place to other place, either you have a direct or you have a stopover. So the same thing could be between up to 30 to 50 days between from Shenzhen to Los Angeles connecting, and then you're expecting at least 20 to 25 days outside of Los Angeles port. So basically you're looking at something at least 60 days to 90 days. From the date it departs, it arrives to the port, and then your container or your shipment is available to be picked up. If you're using a direct shipping line from Shenzhen to Oakland, the transit time is 16 days. And with the delays, 1 week or 7 to 8 days, we are basically shipping within 25 to 30 days, port to port, latest arrive. Or if you really need to ship to Los Angeles, you can use an express shipping line, Matson, which the price is almost 40% more expensive than the regular shipping line. And then they arrive also in 20 to 25 days. So the three options. And most of the time, people don't know which shipping line they're using, so they always complain, oh, my shipment delayed, but then we need to ask, what is the reason? Or you need to ask your freight forwarder, what is the reason?
So what is the price difference, though, of like shipping to Long Beach as opposed to shipping to Oakland? Wouldn't Oakland be more expensive?
No, it's almost the same price. Today, 16th of February, indirect shipping line from Shenzhen to Los Angeles, $11,000 for full container, 11,000 to 11,500. The direct shipping line from Shenzhen to Oakland around $13,000. So you would say like around 20% more expensive, not because of the destination, but because the direct shipping line. There are also some shipments going to Oakland port connecting through Korea or Los Angeles, but it makes no sense because then you can just directly ship it to Los Angeles, right? Or if it goes Matson, it is roughly $17,000 to $18,000. So most of the customers that we work with, we highly recommend them to ship it to Oakland. We consolidate our own containers in China, so we are very transparent. We provide the container numbers, the shipping line number, the ETD, ETA. People can track the shipments online. I think that's also another issue with most of the sellers, that they don't really know where is their shipment and then when it's going to arrive.
Now there's sellers who this is all they know. They launched only like in the last year and a half, and this is like normal for them. Maybe they hate it, but Absolutely. But only the people who have been around for like 2+ years know what the good old days was. So just for those out there, what's the contrast? What's the quote unquote normal things you just mentioned right now? First of all, prices of a container, $11,000 and $14,000 depending on where it is, and then to LA it's like 60 to 90 days before you can get your hands on it. But before the world turned upside down, what were those numbers?
2 years ago, I would say the shipping from Shenzhen to Los Angeles would be 25 to 35 days between. And then the price, I guess, like 2,800, like 2,500 between 20 GP container, up to maybe 4,000. And right before the Christmas or right before Chinese New Year, we probably see $4,000 to $5,000, but nothing like above 5,000, 6,000. So, but last year we saw, it was crazy. It was madness. We saw $18,000 to $20,000 to West Coast, and New York was, I think, selling around $25,000. And imagine, people with like tiny margins and the big competition, some of them, they decided not to ship and then wait. And some of them had to take the cost and ship it. But we are expecting not to go back to those numbers, either up or down. Like I don't think that we will ever see prices going back to $4,000, $5,000. But I don't really think that we're gonna see $20,000 to $25,000. Like right now, the East Coast, New York or Norfolk around like $14,000, $15,000. Maybe in summertime we might see some drop. Before the Christmas time, like September, October, we're gonna probably see the peak again. So I think people should be really careful with their ROI, and they need to calculate this basically 20 to 30% up and downs with their pricing and the cost calculations.
Okay, so now I know you can't predict what's going to happen, but you have access to a lot of trends, and more about this than the average person. So if you were to predict what is going to what's going to happen now through March, through April, what kind of signs are you seeing out there? Is this 11,000 to 13,000 pretty much going to be the same for a few months, or do you see it going up a little bit because of Chinese New Year? Do you see it going down?
Because of Chinese New Year, probably we're going to see some drop. But this week, the prices are a little bit increased. I think because there's a really big demand. A lot of factories just coming back to work, and they had like half finished goods, and now they try to ship it. And the demand is not really going down because most of our customers are trying to expand internationally. So we are only talking about US, but a lot of people trying to enter new markets like UK, Canada, Germany. Surprisingly, a lot of people start asking about Middle East, whether we do shipments or not. So I think people are a little bit tired of this, like, the Los Angeles port situation and everything. So they're looking for like profitable new markets. We are helping people to expand that with international logistics as well as the warehousing. I guess U.S. market will keep up with the demand, so the price is going to be staying above 10,000 rates next couple of months. In summertime, we might see some drop, but again, people start already asking us about the fourth quarter because the time goes really fast, especially the China side or even in India right now. We see that there's a big delays with the manufacturing side because of the environmental facts, the electricity problem, the raw material price increase a lot. We start hearing this, like let's say stainless steel increased like 40% compared to 2 years ago. So it is a little bit of everything, I would say, when it comes to the supply chain. So that's why people should be always have like plan B, plan C, sourcing from a new market, shipping to the new ports, maybe look for an alternative 3PL warehouse. 3 years ago maybe we wouldn't have this conversation even, Bradley, because things were like really smooth. But right now I think being successful on selling on Amazon or Walmart or e-commerce is all about like planning your entire year, I think, up front. Otherwise, things get like crazy with delivery times and the prices.
As far as what are the pros and cons of using the Amazon Global Logistics? Sometimes you see news articles out there. I've never personally used it. I actually tried once to do it on our Project X case study account, but there were some issues where they never approved our account for that. But there's news articles that say, oh yeah, you can get it much faster through there, and it's cheaper and things like that. And I was just, it didn't make sense to me. I was like, what? They just get to skip the line at the Long Beach port. So what is the pros and cons? Like, are customers using Amazon Global Logistics getting their stuff faster and cheaper, or is it pretty much it's the same boat as everything else?
Absolutely, they're not doing anything fast. I can definitely say that. A couple of our customers, they use Amazon Global Logistics. Basically, Amazon has its own brand, right? Like, Amazon Basic. So they manufacture a lot of things in Asia. So they have a big, maybe almost bigger than a mid-size of freight forwarder. Amazon has its own freight, enough containers to load a couple of vessels per week. So basically what they do is they charter their own cruises, they charter their own cargo ships, and they put their own containers. And when they have an extra space, they basically put the rest of the cargo to there. So basically you have zero control on your departure date. Everybody knows, all the sellers know how the Amazon's customer service works. It's the same thing with the Amazon Global Logistics. Basically, there's no guarantee when it's going to ship. There's no guarantee of tracking. There's no guarantee of anything. I heard the prices are very cheap, but you kind of need to understand whether you're okay with your entire investment, or let's say 1/3 of your investment, your merchandise sitting on sitting on one of the terminals in China, and you don't know when it's going to depart. Versus you're okay to pay $2,000-3,000 more, but you actually know when your shipment. I mean, maybe some of the really large brands who don't have really cash flow problem, they might be doing this with a huge contracts with Amazon directly. But most of the sellers small sellers like 6, 7, 8 figure sellers, I don't really see the reason why they should be working with them. Same thing with the Amazon LTL, actually. When you're a wholesaler, you're a retail arbitrage, or a private label. We've been talking about private label shipping from China, but I'm sure there are a lot of people listening, like sourcing product domestically or from South America. Even the same thing with Amazon LTL carriers. Yes, it's cheap, but the problem we see when our customers are sending us the FBA labels and the pallet labels to ship out the products, the Amazon LTL carrier never shows up. And then in their system, they say that they showed up. And then the customer, like the seller, needs to call back Amazon Carrier Central to trying to rebook it, reschedule it, trying to get the refund. So that's why now, a lot of people, they have the limits. The more you sell, Amazon gives you more ability to send new inventory in. So it means that you really have like a tight time between sending in inventory checks in. So you want to make sure everything goes smooth. So we can't avoid the fact that Amazon is massive. They're getting like bigger. They're chartering their own planes, trucks. They have new strategies probably, but it's never going to be, because it's going to be always like bulk. And people who use that needs to be careful with the shipping time and the transit times with their shipments.
You talked a little bit about vocabulary, words and different things. And so let's just do a quick overview again of the terms that you think people need to understand, and then the differences of them, like air shipping, sea shipping, fast, slow, DDP. Like, I don't know if you can pick like 5 or the top 5 or top 10, shipping related things that you think Amazon sellers out there need to know what they mean so that they can make a good decision.
Most of the new beginners, we understand that they don't know the difference between FOB and EXW. That is basically when you're making a deal with your factory, they are basically asking what kind of price do you want, like FOB and XW. And probably a lot of people, they heard about it, but they don't know the difference. So this is something they need to understand because it affects directly their pricing. When people are asking us the price, we always quote them everything included, door to door. And now we ask them who's going to pay the local charges in China. And they're like, what do you mean with that? We are like, what is your trade term? Is it FOB or EXW? This is number one, I guess. FOB is something that when you place the order, the factory pays the local charges in the origin. It can be Turkey, India, Bangladesh. If it is EXW, it means the factory responsible manufacture the product, leave it in front of the factory door, and you're in charge of entire pricing, entire the cost. But some of the people say, oh, I don't know how to pick up. I don't know who's going to pay. I don't know, should my supplier send you the product or can you pick up? We tell them it doesn't really matter because the factories in China or the different part of the world, they know this process. So the sellers only need to be careful when they choose the trade term, because normally if you place an order, Bradley, FOB, it means that factory is going to pay the local charge. Let's say you're manufacturing a microphone and microphone costs $5 EXW, and with FOB, they're going to probably charge you $5.5. So they actually going to reflect that local charges into the product cost. Maybe this could sound a little advanced, but just to understand what kind of pricing you're getting from factory, because if you're buying 10,000, 15,000 units, it can make a really big difference. So this is the number one. The second thing, I would say the fast C or slow C. I hear this from every single person, and this is a very wrong thing to say. Because there's no such thing, it's not like two cargo ships are racing to each other in the Pacific Ocean to get into the terminal. It's about their routing, whether they stop in a different port, whether they have the size of the cargo ship. Some of the cargo ships can take up to 16,000 containers. Some of them can get up to only 4,000. So people need to understand when they talk to us or their freight forwarder, they need to understand the route, like shipping route. What can affect the shipping time? Is it the connection? Is it which terminal they're actually unloading the containers in the destination? Is it the port? So this is the right question to ask. Instead of asking slow boat, fast boat, people should ask which shipping line are you using? Is it a direct shipping line, indirect shipping line, and what is the transit time? And when your freight forwarder is answering you the transit time, it means from the port to port, you need to ask, okay, great, it is 35 days, but what is your experience? How many days it actually takes that my container will be available in the terminal? If they don't have the answer, you need to reconsider working that freight forwarder because they should actually know. Because most of the companies, they just ship the product and then they forget about it. They don't really give you because they get paid in advance. So you need to really understand the entire process. So there's no such thing slow C, fast C. It's either direct shipping or indirect. And I think that one of the most important things, the HS codes. I know a lot of people don't really like this topic, but if you source private label from China, there are a lot of items are subject to extra cost between 15% and 25%. So you really need to understand what kind of HS code your freight forwarder is using under which company, whether it's under your company or the freight forwarder's company, and how much duty and tax you're going to pay. A couple of weeks ago, one of my customers told me their freight forwarder said such thing. I think the duty farming or like tax farming. I'm like, I don't even know what does that mean. So if someone comes up to you and then asks you or tell you things like makes no sense, always make sure you question because eventually it could be your product returned back from the custom to the origin because it doesn't pass the the custom. So I think these are the three top main things that people should be focusing on, and never like worry about asking the right questions to your freight forwarders. And most of our customers who used to work with their suppliers, freight forwarders, I really don't recommend that. Always make sure you guys have a direct communication with the freight forwarder. It doesn't matter if you're using the suppliers, if you're using your own, make sure you have at least one or two contact people from the freight forwarder in case someone gets sick or they're out of office or they quit the job. It happens a lot last year. So many people quit their jobs, especially in China. It is very important. Most of our friends, true friends, they're asking us, hey, can you help me to find this company because I cannot contact them. I think these are some tips that I can give sellers.
Okay, excellent. Now, what are some mistakes you've seen? The biggest mistakes you've seen people make. Obviously, you deal with tons of Amazon sellers out there, and then you're probably not the company that they use for their very first shipment. Maybe they were using just Alibaba freight, to find a freight forwarder, or they're using their factory, and then now they find you guys somehow, and then you take a look at what they've been doing. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe they were doing this, or maybe they said like, oh my God, I can't believe I was doing this before. I can't believe I paid this. Like, what are some of the most common mistakes you've seen Amazon sellers make when they first get started with you?
I don't know how many. I don't know how many things comes to my mind. I don't know where to start, but I guess one of the things is the hidden costs. A lot of people, they get burned, especially if it's their first shipment, the second shipment. It's always kind of try to work with the supplier's freight forwarder because it's kind of safe. Then they start asking. What I like actually about Amazon community and Facebook groups, people start giving their actual reviews, actual feedback. So that's a really great thing. I think people before start using a freight forwarder, they should be asking like, who are these guys? A lot of people, they surprise with the hidden costs. What I mean with that is try to negotiate with your freight forwarder not to pay them upfront in advance. The reason why I'm saying that, I heard a lot of companies, they pay, let's say $5,000 from Shenzhen to Los Angeles, Amazon LAX 9 warehouse, $5,000 for 2,000 kilograms. And when the shipment arrived to port, the freight forwarders, they say, oh, there's an extra charge of this and that. So then since they paid already, they own the product, you have to pay it. I think this is one thing that people should be really careful with the quotation they receive. I highly recommend people to receive the quotation written by the email. A lot of people, they use Skype. A lot of people using WeChat. There's no problem with that. It's good to communicate with your freight forwarder because they're in a different time zone. But definitely take the contract written. And at the end, if you have any problem, let's say you find on Alibaba, at least you can contact Alibaba and try to waive that fee. This is one thing. Another thing is, I guess a lot of people they're making a mistake is they don't know the shipping times, and then they're like running out of stock, they're running out of inventory. There's one thing because I lived in China 8 years before I started this freight forwarding company, Forceget. I was using companies in China, and the biggest problem I was facing the communication. I always had to ask them, "Where's my shipment?" And I really never knew whether they're giving me the correct information or not. I'm not saying they lie, but they might be just giving you information because they don't want to make you angry. They don't want to feel like having a bad relationship with you. They're like, "Oh yeah, it arrives next week. It arrives next week." But then I was like, "You told me the same thing 3 weeks ago. Where's my shipment? Where's the container number?" And they said, "Oh, we can't share the container number." I think these are some of the things that you should be asking your freight forwarders before you work with them, whether they provide you the container number. That is very, very important, because it's normal that if you have a small shipment, obviously every company is consolidate those containers, but you should be knowing what is your HS code and what is the container number, because maybe that container has been sitting in China for 4 weeks in the terminal, but they told you that you're gonna receive your product next week, and then you suddenly decide, okay, I'm gonna activate my listing, start getting reviews, but then you never see that product next 5 to 6 weeks, and you miss the honeymoon period. These are something that I think is kind of important.
Now, something that I've seen, come up on the Amazon dashboard, and some sellers were asking about it, is some like kind of like new requirements. It says like, hey, you've got to, once you create this shipment, you've got 30 days or something like that to actually get it in. And so a lot of sellers are like, wait a minute, you can't do anything in 30 days unless you're doing made in USA and have it arrive. So what's happening for the stuff that's coming from China? Let's just say it's going all the way to Amazon first. Usually in those cases, they are putting the FBA labels on the boxes already in China, right?
Yes,
if they're not repackaging
Yes.
here in the United States. So does this rule affect them, or what's going on there?
Wow, that's something that we've been talking almost every day to our customers, because it used to be 90 days before. So there was like enough time. And if people don't do this yet, they should start doing it before you ship out your cargo from China. You should create your shipment. You need to send your FBA labels to your supplier so they can put it. We pick up and then we ship it either to our warehouse or Amazon. But until this 30-day rule, Bradley, when we had this 90-day, we had couple of cases that the shipments were closed by the Amazon site, but Amazon still received them after it was delivered. So I don't recommend to do this to people, because Amazon it's against Amazon's policy. I'm not going to tell people that yes, you should be doing it, but some of the cases the shipments were already in the UPS, couple of days passed, the shipment delivered to Amazon still scanned them and still put them under the active inventory. So we saw that a couple of times. Even we saw that the shipment's supposed to deliver to a different location with the different FBA labels, it was delivered. So when it comes to the 30 day, I guess it might still be the case, but it is definitely going to affect your account health. So I don't really recommend to do that. So the best option is to create the labels when the shipment departs. So people might be thinking, oh wow, then I need to find a 3PL warehouse who can apply the labels. It's going to be extra cost. Unfortunately, yes, it is what it is. But I guess what Amazon is trying to do is, imagine Amazon's system algorithm, maybe every day there are 1 million shipments created, and maybe 20 to 30% of that are failed, not delivered on time. So basically Amazon is predicting, and they're doing a forecast. I was actually a few weeks ago, I was in Amazon San Francisco warehouse. They actually have a special area where they have the check in the shipments, and they're expecting that day to be delivered, let's say 100 containers, but if there's only 70 containers delivered, then Amazon is actually losing 20 to 30% of their space and capacity. And they still pay the employees, they still pay for facilities. Everybody probably knows, I mean, you live in California, you know how things are getting expensive in California. We used to pay $8 per pallet to put the products on. Now we're almost paying $18 per pallet. So same thing with Amazon. I think that's why they're like strict in the rules. And Amazon don't want to be anymore a warehouse store. They just want to be a very fast-moving fulfillment center. You know, before the COVID, you could send unlimited inventory. Now, these days we see still like it's a little bit losing up with the inventory restrictions. I guess because Amazon is investing a lot into new warehouse spaces. Only like within the last 3 months, they probably have like 5-6 new warehouses in California. So I guess it's still gonna go the same way. Amazon will never like go back to unlimited space because they don't really make money on that. So people should really start focusing on finding a third-party warehouse to get this labeling done in US side or in even in Europe, because especially Canada is like shipping China to Canada is almost 50 days it takes by ocean. So you cannot really create your shipment before your shipment created. Like you cannot create your labels before shipment departs from China. So
so it does apply to all shipments then. It's not just talking about the one when you use the Amazon partner carrier like UPS. Like if I wanted to send a full container door to door to Amazon's warehouse, there realistically is no way to comply with that new rule unless I relabel the stuff in a third party warehouse first.
Almost. And another biggest issue right now with Amazon full container deliveries, I don't know if you heard about it, but there's almost no carrier in California want to deliver to Amazon directly. The waiting time is incredible. Like each container waits almost average. We have a digital platform, so we track the delivery times. They're waiting around 7 to 8 hours average to deliver a full container to Amazon. So imagine, Bradley, you're paying only $800 to $1,000 detention fee for the delivery. Sometimes the trucks go to deliver things to Amazon, full container, and then the Amazon says their system is down, just come back tomorrow. So imagine how much unexpected cost. One of our customers just shipped from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, LSV1, full container. It was $4,500 for a truck, just because it's going to Amazon. It used to be like $1,400 to $1,600. So I guess this supply chain issue, the freights, not only international but domestic freight, even with Amazon, Amazon is going to start put like more restrictions and more rules. I feel like it's coming up. So I think really people should be careful with their shipments and their costs. I mean, I don't want to really sound like I'm giving the bad news, but I think that's something that people should be prepared.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing to keep in mind too is it's not like, oh, now the competition is different or I'm screwed. I mean, everybody's in the same boat. Like the prices, the shipping times. It's not like people have special access to something that nobody else does. I mean, so people are going to, I've seen prices raise and that's how it's going to be. So everybody's in the same boat, no pun intended. And so we all just have to deal with it.
So when we're talking about, global freight forwarding, it's not only about just shipping port to port. There are so many other factors get involved. So many emails, so many people, maybe until people place an order from, Amazon, there are like 10 to 15 companies are involving. That's why I think digitalization is going to change the era of this, supply chain, because you said that everybody's on the same boat. I totally agree with that. But people who manage their supply chain more professionally, more visible, I think they will be successful. Actually, I'm calling global email freight forwarding, because there are like so many manual job has been done in this industry. It is really important for people and companies to understand why the digitalization should be helping them.
Okay. Now, before we get into your 30-second tip, are you going to the Prosper show in March?
Actually, we're gonna be Helium 10's party sponsor. So.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to talk about. So, guys, Forceget is one of the sponsors for our special event. It's going to be House of Blues. It's I forgot what it's called, a music room or something at House of Blues in Mandalay Bay. So even if you're going to the Prosper show, or if you're not, just go to Vegas, guys, that weekend, and we are going to have a crazy party. For any 90s kids, like myself, we're going to have Mark McGrath there. You might remember him from Sugar Ray. He's going to be our musical guest at this party, which is crazy to see him in person. And it's going to be kind of like a 90s theme. Mark McGrath's 90s night kind of is what it's going to be. So if you guys want to get your tickets there before they sell out, go to h10.me/prosper 2022. That's h10.me/prosper 2022. You can meet Burak there. You can meet me there and meet Mark McGrath potentially there. So that's definitely going to be good times. Now, what is your TST 30-second tip? You've been giving us a lot of tips and strategies, but what's something that's kind of quick and very actionable that our listeners can take as in regards to freight forwarding?
Choose the right freight forwarder, reliable one with a good communication. Make sure there's no hidden cost. Make sure you get the entire shipping process understood. Which shipping line, how many days, which port, what's going to be the cost, and what is your delivery time. And make sure you are managing your cash flow according to that, and make sure you place the orders. Don't forget there are delays in the supply chain part. And more importantly, I guess, when you compare the prices, compare the apple to apple, because so many companies are out there like just offering the pricing without too much details. And don't be afraid of asking more questions. I feel people are managing their entire e-commerce business so professional. Everything's under control, but the freight side is kind of like a little gray and shady, that they don't really know what is going on. I think it's important to get involved more and increase the communication with your freight forwarder to understand eventually it's your own product and it's your money tied up one of the containers. If you can't track it, you need to ask yourself, like, where's my shipment?
Okay, so there you have it, guys. We keep it real here. We're not going to try and paint something that a situation that is not, and the situation is, prices are higher, shipping times are longer, but hopefully this episode has been able to help you understand what you guys need to do to help to do all you can to ease the pain, I guess, of this situation. So, Burak, thanks so much for joining us. I know people can find your company also in directory.helium10.com,
right,
our trusted partner directory. If they want to reach out to you, what are some websites and locations that people can find you out there?
The best way to reach out us is, as you say there, we are in Helium 10 Trusted Partner page, forceget.com, and also we have quick quotation page that people can just leave their contact information. We have WhatsApp and US number. One of the advantage that working with us is we have a local presence in US with a time difference, so that people don't have to wait their freight forwarders to wake up overseas. I think that's like one of the challenges that people are facing. But sending an email to sales@forceget.com will be the best way to get in touch with us.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be seeing you in a couple weeks in Vegas, and we'll also see you on one of the upcoming Elite workshops as well. So thank you so much for that, and we'll see you later.
Thank you for having me.